We hear a lot about continental knitting. What's the difference between that and what we might be more used to doing in the UK?
See, the funny thing for me is my mum's German and my German grandmother taught me to knit. So for me, continental knitting is kind of the normal way or the usual way. So it took me a long time to learn what I call the English way, which is where you've got your yarn in your right hand.
Which is what I do.
Yeah. So basically the only difference really is that the yarn's in your left hand. And if you're a crocheter, you will probably find this quite easy because you're used to having your yarn up on a finger like that. So the knit stitch is really easy. You'll just, let me just do one to get it out of the way because it's... So you go into the stitch and you're literally like spreading it. Can you see I'm spreading that
yes,
stitch?
I can see the gap there, yes.
And then I'm just grabbing, just like you would with crochet, I'm grabbing the yarn and pulling it through. So that's the official way of doing the knit stitch.
So you're just picking it up and pulling it through.
Just pulling it, picking it. That's why some people call it picking rather than throwing. The English way is throwing.
Ah, so I'm a thrower and you're a picker.
I'm a picker. The way I do it actually is I don't hold the yarn up. I go in and then I just put the yarn round from bottom to top and come back through. So it's kind of what you're used to. Some people, when I teach continental knitting, it's a matter of finding what each person finds easiest. And you see, for me, because the yarn is already in the direction of travel, if you like, it means that this way of knitting is, look how quick you can get because you're literally just grabbing that yarn.
That's very quick and very neat, yes.
So, however, when it comes to so that's the knit stitch.
That looks very simple. I think I've got that.
You're not going to like the purl much then, let me tell you.
Oh dear.
So you can see I'm just wrapping it over the needle.
Yes.
Just to get to the end of the row. Round there. Okay. So the purl stitch, I'm just going to purl a couple of stitches so you can see it better. There are lots of ways of doing the purl, and again, when I'm teaching, I try and find what people find easiest. The official way, in inverted commas, is you put your yarn in front, just like you would in English knitting.
Yeah. And
then the idea is you go under the yarn and into the stitch.
Okay.
And then you bring your finger down like a shuttle.
Ah.
You see that?
And pull up.
Yeah. So yarn in front, under the yarn, into the stitch, and here comes the shuttle, which again I think crocheters might find a bit easier. I personally go under the yarn into the stitch, you can see that, under the yarn into the stitch, and then I just wrap it round again and pull it back through. So it's kind of, it's the same result, it doesn't look any different when you
get to the end.
Yeah. So round and back through. Now, a dear friend of mine who's a continental knitter showed me another way where you go into the stitch. You don't have to worry about the yarn's lying in front, into the stitch, into the stitch, you go over the needle and come back through.
Come back that way.
So in, over, come back through, which then very much reflects the knit stitch if you're doing it that way, putting it over. So over, bottom to top, use your forefinger
to pull it back
through. Yeah.
Ah. So is it very much a case of just casting on some stitches and practicing the different methods till you find what you like?
Yes, I think so. Whatever's going to work for you, because look, I'm automatically going back to this. This is another way that people do it and they just trap it there. I think you need to find out what suits the way that you hold needles, what's going to make you feel comfortable. And obviously it is going to feel very slow and very odd at the moment. So there are advantages, there are lots of advantages to being able to do continental knitting. So if you do a lot of fair isle, then you can do two-handed fair isle, which makes your fair isle a lot more even. For anybody that has, say, an RSI or something like that, they might, because of all this, they might have some elbow pain.
Yes.
And this is a much gentler way because your yarn is actually working so much with you. Also, I've taught left-handed people who say I'll never be able to knit because I'm a left-hander, and because it's not because the left hand is more active than the right, it's actually because both hands are very active. They find it a lot easier to pick up. But the main disadvantage is, and you saw it just then, it can be looser. and you will, for most continental knitters, will find that their tension is a bit looser than an English knitter, because you haven't got that built-in. You know, when you're knitting like this, you've got a built-in tensioner, if you like.
Yes.
If you're just wrapping the yarn round like that, what I do is I wrap it round my finger just like a crocheter would, like that, and that gives me that little bit of tension to work against.
Yes, so you've got something to pull against there.
Yeah.
Right, I
and
see.
that's really all there is to it.
It's just a matter of sitting down and practicing.
Yeah.